Breaking news for Canadians as we head into a new election. A bombshell investigation has just dropped, exposing a decade-long web of financial scandals, political power plays, and corporate influence that could shake the nation to its core. Two powerful men, Frank McKenna and Mark Carney, are at the center of this storm. And what we've uncovered will leave you questioning who's really running Canada. Stay tuned. This is a story you won't believe. Frank McKenna, the deputy chair of TD Bank since 2006, and Mark Carney, Canada's newly minted Prime Minister as of March 2025, have been secretly orchestrating Canada's financial destiny for over a decade. TD Bank, under McKenna's watch, just pleaded guilty to a massive money laundering scandal, slapped with a staggering $3.1 billion fine for helping drug cartels move dirty money. And while McKenna was overseeing this mess, he was also working closely with Mark Carney at Brookfield Asset Management, a global investment firm. How did no one see this coming? And how come the Canadian mainstream media isn't covering it?
TD Bank, the largest bank in the U.S., pled guilty to multiple felonies for failing to take action against multi-million-dollar money laundering schemes.
A bank that willfully fails to protect against criminal schemes is also a criminal. That is what TD Bank was.
Thursday, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the historic $1.8 billion settlement as the bank agreed to other civil penalties totaling in roughly $3 billion.
I think the fine itself is somewhat of a slap on the wrist.
That's right. While TD Bank was laundering money for nearly a decade, McKenna was in a senior position with direct oversight of risk and compliance. How could he not know? Meanwhile, in 2020, McKenna brought Carney into Brookfield Asset Management, where they formed a powerful alliance. Together, they also pushed billions into so-called green investments, reshaping one of the world's largest asset managers. But here's the kicker. Carney abruptly left Brookfield in January 2025, just before becoming Canada's Prime Minister. Coincidence? We don't think so.
I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management. I ceased to be chair on the 15th, I think, of January, when I announced for leadership. Also ceased to be chair of Bloomberg as well. Ceased to be United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance. Ceased to be a number of other things. So I resigned all my positions because I am all in for Canada, all in for this leadership, all in during this time of crisis to build our great country.
He says that he's, and I quote, all in this time of crisis. Isn't this crisis because of mismanagement from the Trudeau Liberals over the past 9 years, for which Carney was Trudeau's advisor since 2020? Let's connect the dots. McKenna's bank gets caught laundering money. He brings Carney to Brookfield, where they both push a green transition agenda worth trillions. Carney then leaves Brookfield, becomes Prime Minister, and gets McKenna's public endorsement. Now, with Carney in the Prime Minister's office, and McKenna still a power broker at TD Bank and Brookfield, have they unprecedented control over both Canada's government and its financial systems? And who benefits? Brookfield, perfectly positioned to manage those sustainable investments. Meanwhile, TD's $3.1 billion fine, just a slap on the wrist. No executives went to jail, and shareholders foot the bill. Here's what experts had to say about the real impact of these fines.
Some analysts believe the total fines could hit $2 billion US, which, just so we're clear, isn't enough to sink a company that made 15 billion Canadian last year. But it's not just the fine they're worried about.
The indirect costs are more worrisome. The costs of remediation, the cost of fixing the problem. And sometimes that's estimated as being as much as 3 times the cost of the penalty itself.
Last year, TD was set to buy an American bank, First Horizon, for more than 13 billion US. That deal fell through. According to the Wall Street Journal, regulators wouldn't sign off on it because they were worried about the bank's handling of suspicious customer transactions.
So, what does this mean for Canadians? With Carney now running the government and McKenna pulling strings from the corporate world, the same office that regulates banks like TD and firms like Brookfield is in their hands. And their shared obsession with the green transition could redirect trillions from traditional industries into investments that benefit their allies. The Sean Newman podcast, which broke this story, is asking the tough questions. Did McKenna know about the laundering? Was Carney's Brookfield role a stepping stone to power? And who really benefits from all this? We need answers, because this isn't just about two men. It's about a system where the elite protect each other while pushing their own agendas. And we all know where Mark Carney stands on elitism and his connection to the World Economic Forum.
And it's a very elitist point of view that thinks that somehow an individual has a monopoly on knowledge and they should limit others from, going and looking for knowledge themselves.
And then they thrive off of the assumption that people cannot figure anything out for themselves and that we need them to dictate what is true and what we can hear. And that's exactly what everybody at that conference seems to agree with.
As the dust settles, one question remains. If the elite can orchestrate scandals like this and walk away unscathed, who's really holding them accountable? This is a story far from over. Stay vigilant, Canada. Like and subscribe for more news stories that affect your wallet. I'm Glenn Zacher. Thanks for watching, because it's your money.